Peace, family. Kendrick Johnson, a 17-year-old boy who had been found on a placemat in the state of Georgia. His parents is conducting a second autopsy after the last couple of years of his body being has been found. Now this story is very interesting, and I would like to. It's been years since we still don't know what happened to Kendrick Johnson. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video, and I'm going to continue the rest of my commentary.
Nearly 10 months after their son died, the parents of Kendrick Johnson are getting another investigation into the teenager's mysterious death. Federal prosecutors now looking into the case. Johnson's bloody body was found back in January inside a rolled-up wrestling mat in the high school gymnasium. His parents hoping that this surveillance video from inside the school will help police understand what happened to their son. Well, the U.S. attorney says there's a lot of missing pieces to the puzzle.
As part of that process, there are several questions that must be answered or confirmed. First, what was the cause of Mr. Johnson's death? Second, was Mr. Johnson's death the result of a crime? Third, if Mr. Johnson's death was the result of a crime, who committed that crime? And fourth, if a crime in fact was committed, who has the jurisdiction to investigate and prosecute those responsible?
Here now is Benjamin Crump, who is an attorney for the Johnson family. Mr. Crump, good to see you. You're on record as saying this is murder, and you think there was a cover-up of that murder. What makes you think so?
Well, obviously, it's ridiculous when you think about the explanation that the sheriff offered, that a 17-year-old exceptionally gifted athlete climbed into a wrestling mat, got stuck, suffocated, and died. It flies in the face of all logic, the laws of physics, and common sense when you really think about it. And this is what they offered to his family.
Well, you've been a lawyer for a great many years, and you've seen that accidents do happen, even tragic accidents. Do you have any evidence, including the surveillance tape, that would prove otherwise?
Well, what we do know, Greg, what you won't see in these over 1,900 hours of video surveillance that this family had to sue for just to try to find out what happened to their child, you won't see him climbing into a wrestling mat, getting stuck, as the sheriff concluded. So you have to say, where did they come up with this theory? And if it can't be substantiated, isn't it more logical to conclude that there was some foul play, he was rolled up into this wrestling mat, and so he deserves a fair and proper investigation?
But was
That's
any
all his parents want to know.
Was any of that found on the surveillance tape? Him being beaten or rolled up into a mat by others? Is any of that on the surveillance?
Well, we don't know that yet. We have not got all the video surveillance. The judge just ordered it this week to be turned over to us, and the family had to sue to get this. And I just want to put the human face on this. These are parents who sent their child to school with a book bag. He was returned to them in a body bag. From that day to this, almost 10 months later, they've only been trying to get at the truth. And when they go and say, well, let us look at all the video because we want to know what happened to our child, they're told, no, you can't get this video. So we actually have to sue to get the video. Attorney King sue. And to answer your question directly, Greg, we haven't seen the video yet. We don't know where it was shown, but we think it will help us get to the truth of what happened.
Local
and we know
authorities,
there was blunt force trauma that.
And I'll get to that in just a second. But local authorities call this an accident. One would assume that they would have reviewed all of the surveillance videotape for the purposes of this discussion. Let's assume they didn't find anybody actually murdering Kendrick. But you think there's a cover-up. Who would cover this up and why?
Well, you know, Valdosta is a small town. You don't know what individuals know what individuals, whose parents might be the individual. We think it's young people involved in this matter. So you just don't know. But it's a real-life murder mystery, and that's the tragedy of it.
Why would anybody want to kill Kendrick? Did he have any enemies? Do you have any motive for this?
Well, we don't know any of that yet, but what we do know is that they did not want to give the video up. Also, his clothes are missing that would have valuable DNA and blood evidence. His fingernails were cut back that would have had skin and DNA evidence on it. And on top of all of that, Greg, when they exhumed his body and did the second autopsy, they found out that his organs were missing, which would have given very objective evidence to what really happened to this child.
And blunt force trauma to the head and neck area, the right side of the neck, consistent with an inflicted injury, according to the independent pathologist. All of this, I suppose, will be reviewed by the U.S. attorney, but they don't have jurisdiction to prosecute, so they're just going to recommend that somebody else prosecute, right?
Exactly, and we have requested a coroner's inquest. Greg, the judge is going to decide that matter on Monday because right now the manner and cause of death is an accident, and the investigation was closed a couple of days after this tragedy, and this family is saying we won't accept that. We really want to know what happened. And that's hopefully what the court.
Well, a second set of eyes and the analytical skills of the FBI may come to bear on this, and that is only a good thing, one can imagine. Benjamin Crump, our thoughts and prayers to the family, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, guys. All right, you heard the story. Now, 5 years ago, a young 17-year-old Georgia athlete named Kendrick Johnson. You know, he was a good athlete. He played basketball. He played football. You name it, he's on it. And guess what happened? They found him dead at a wrestling mat, right? That happened 5 years ago, which is January of 2013. Now, the coroner's office. What bothers me, what's really so strange about this investigation, I'm glad the parents of Kendrick Johnson is going to do a zoom in his body, finding out what really happened to him, is that once they find his body, they went to the coroner's office, his organs, everything was gone. And instead, they put newspaper in his body. And that's in the coroner's office. And since then, it was reports that rumors it was a cover-up. We really don't know what really happened to him. But realistically, guys, is that we don't really know. And I'm glad, like I said, the parents is already investigating this again because they felt that this is a major cover-up. There's been rumors that, that he's been attacked and murdered and put him in a wrestling mat. But then another theory that the shoes, it is claiming that his shoes were not his real shoes, and so thing is that we basically finding out it was a cover up, but there's no evidence, and so like Benjamin Crump just said that they was trying to wait on, and then the parents is already suing for those videos, those more surveillance videos that took place to what happened to Kendrick Johnson. But this story and this is just goes to show that people still ignore this investigation. Now, I don't watch Fox News. I'm gonna keep it 100. I don't really get involved in Fox News or watch Fox News, but I'm glad they brought this story up about Kendrick Johnson because I know the mainstream media just forget about it. And I think CNN made one story about Kendrick Johnson, and that was it. So now you have to understand that this is a serious story. The state of Georgia is doing a second zoom of his body, his second autopsy, finding out what really happened to him. But again, like I said, this is going to be an interesting thing if they find anything that the question is, was Kendrick Johnson attacked that day? I seen a lot of videos on CNN showing that they picked on Kendrick Johnson for no apparent reason. And so again, we don't even know he got attacked and then murdered, then rolled over this wrestling mat. They said it was an accident, but realistically, we really don't know what happened. So, and let me say this, that like I said, we're still gonna wait and see what the video is going to reveal, because they said it's more surveillance videos coming out. So we're gonna find out what's going to happen, what's really going to happen. But this is going to be a very interesting couple of weeks, and hopefully that the family of Kendrick Johnson will finally get justice 5 years after finally his son's family might end up getting justice after the 5 years that Kendrick Johnson has been murdered. So leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about this news story. I'm going to do some news and commentary. With that being said, this is Lions Den signing off. Deuces.